The gravedigger grabbed me by the arm as I walked away from my father's coffin. "Sir," he murmured. His voice was not only deep. She trembled slightly, as if every word cost her. I turned my head, annoyed, drained, unable to take one more thing. "Not now," I said curtly. I tried to free myself. My mother was waiting by the car, her face ravaged by grief. The guests began to disperse in silence, their eyes still red, their shoulders heavy. In the inside pocket of my jacket, I had the speech I had recited a few minutes earlier, a eulogy that I had barely managed to finish without collapsing. My father was dead, Gaspard Leclerc, 67 years. Heart attack, according to doctors. He had been found 3 days earlier in his office, slumped in his chair, his head bent over his diary. He had already left when the emergency services arrived. For 72 hours, I had only survived, organizing the funeral, supporting my mother, answering calls, calming my children, reassuring my wife, and above all, try not to break myself. I had no place in my head for a gravedigger and his stories. But the man insisted. "Your father has paid me, sir." I stopped short. The cold wind of the cemetery passed between the graves like a breath of bad omen. "He paid you? For what?" The gravedigger approached. He was a man of about 50 years old, his skin weathered by the sun and rain, his hand hollowed out of earth, his nails black as if he had spent his life burying secrets. His eyes were too lucid, eyes that had seen too many dead people believe in chance. He tilted his head and whispered, "To bury an empty coffin." The world was turned upside down. For a second, everything began to turn, as if the ground had turned into the sea. "Stop your," I spat. "My father is dead. I saw him. He stared at me without blinking. You saw what he wanted you to see." I felt my heart sink. That's absurd. There was a wake. People signed the register. My mother kissed his forehead. The gravedigger did not move. "Your mother has kissed a mask." Before I could answer, he slipped something into my palm. A small, cold metallic object. A key. A brass key, old worn, with an engraved number. 17. I looked at her as if she came from another world. "What's that?" His gaze became harder. "Listen to me carefully. Don't go home." I snickered nervously. "What?" He got closer, so close that I could smell the damp earth on his jacket. "Go to Unit 17. Storage depot on Route 12. Your father left instructions." "Any instructions?" "But he died 3 days ago." At that precise moment, my phone vibrated. I lowered my eyes. A message. "Mom, go home alone. Right now." I froze. Something was wrong. My mother never wrote to me like that. Never. She always put my darling, my son, please. Always a gentleness, even in fear. There it was dry, authoritarian, glacial. The gravedigger saw the screen. His face decomposed. "No," he murmured. He raised a trembling hand. "It doesn't matter what you do. Don't go in. Not now. Go to Unit 17. Right now." "Why?" "What are you talking about? Is that a bad joke?" He took a deep breath. "Your father told me you'd ask questions. He said you were a lawyer, which you never believe without proof." He reached into his pocket and took out a yellowed envelope, folded, tired by the years. He handed it to me carefully, as if it were radioactive. "He gave me that 20 years ago. He ordered me to give it to you if one day I were to give you the key." I took the envelope. My name was written on it. Not printed. Handwritten. My father's handwriting. Adrian. My fingers began to tremble. 20 years. I whispered. The gravedigger nodded. "He's been preparing all this for a long time." "What's in this unit?" "He wanted you to find out." He pointed to my phone. "And this message, he was afraid of it." I swallow. "Afraid of what?" The gravedigger murmured. "Fear to the point of faking one's own death." Then he stepped back without another word. He walked away between the tombstones, disappearing down the aisle like a ghost who had accomplished his mission. I was left alone in front of the grave, a key in one hand, one envelope in the other, and behind me, a buried coffin, which had perhaps never contained my father. I didn't go home. I don't know exactly why. Maybe instinct, Maybe the raw fear in the gravedigger's eyes. Maybe the strange text. Or maybe, because deep down, something in me had always felt that my father was hiding a dark side. I got into my car, parked away from the cemetery. The silence was suffocating. My hands were shaking so much that I had trouble tearing the envelope. When at last I opened it, I found a single sheet, tight lines, a familiar handwriting. I immediately recognized my father's black ink. I began to read. Adrian, if you read this letter, it means that Serge gave you the key, and therefore that I had to disappear. I felt my breath take away. I know you're lost. I know you're angry. I know you think it's crazy. I squeeze the paper tighter. But everything I'm going to tell you is true. I continued. Go to Unit 17, Route 12. The key will open the door. There, you'll find everything you need to understand. My eyes were burning. Then came the sentence that made my blood run cold. Adrian, don't go home. Not until you see what's in the unit. I read the line again, and again. Then I came across the following words. If your mother sends you a message to come home, especially if this message seems strange. My throat tightened. Don't go. They have it. My heart almost stopped. They use her to lure you. I felt my stomach turn. The paper trembled in my hands. I'll explain everything to you. I promise you. Don't trust anyone. Except for the woman in the depot. Her name is Helene. She's waiting for you. The last line pierced me. I love you, my son. Everything I've done, it was to protect you and your family. I stood there, unable to move. Then, like an automaton, I put the key in my pocket, started the car, and headed for Route 12. The storage depot looked like a fortress. Endless rows of metal boxes. Cameras fixed at each corner. A high fence top with barbed wire. And a strange atmosphere, as if the place exuded mistrust. I parked my car near the reception desk. Scarcely had I passed through the door when a woman stood up. She seemed to have been waiting for me for hours. Adrian Leclerc? She asked. She was about 45 years old, in impeccable civilian clothes. But her head, her posture, the coldness of her gaze, everything indicated that she was not just an employee. Yes, it's me. She stepped forward. Helene Marchand. Then she took out a badge and showed it for a second. Federal Police. She put away immediately. Your father told me you would come. I took a step back, incredulous. Federal Police? Why? Why are you here? What does my father have to do with you? She glanced at the cameras. We don't talk here. His voice became a whisper. They are watching us. She waved. Follow me. She guided me through the labyrinth of units, along the numbers. 1, 2, 3, up to 16. At the far end, isolated, almost hidden by the shadow of the buildings. Unit 17. Helene turned to me. Use the key. I took out the brass key. My fingers were icy. I inserted it into the padlock. One click. The bolt gave way. I slowly lifted the metal door. She squeaked as if protesting. And then, in the middle of the half-light, a man rose from a chair. A man I had buried an hour earlier. My father, alive. His face seemed more tired than I remembered, his hair whiter, his gaze heavier, but it was he. Real, palpable, impossible. Adrian, he said softly. I froze, unable to breathe. Daddy? My voice broke. He raised his hands, as if to soothe me. I know it's huge, but between, and closes again. Now, I took one step, then another, as if my body was moving forward, without asking my mind's opinion. Helene came in behind me and lowered the door. The metallic sound resounded. The outside world had just disappeared. The interior was not a simple box. It was not a place to store furniture. It was a refuge, a shelter prepared for war. A cot in a corner, a mini fridge, screens displaying several surveillance cameras, a table covered with files, cards, photos, and an entire wall covered with faces connected by red lines, like in those movies where you hunt down a gigantic conspiracy. In the center, my father, Gaspard Leclerc, the man I had cried for, the man I had buried. How? I whispered. That was the only word I could find. He pointed to a folding chair. "Sit down, my son." His voice was deep, full of fatigue. "It's going to be a long time." I sit down because my legs wouldn't have held up otherwise. I felt like my brain was drowning. The body I saw at the vigil, who was it? He looked away for a second. A corpse recovered from a medical institute. Same size, same build. The morgue was paid to keep quiet. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Have you organized everything?" "Yes." He put his elbows on the table. "I've been preparing this for months. Since I learned that Lucien Varga was getting out of prison." I frowned. "Lucien? Varga? Who is it?" My father exchanged a heavy look with Helene. Then he took a deep breath. "That's why I've lied to you all your adult life." The story took nearly 2 hours to come out. 2 hours where each sentence seemed to tear off a piece of my father. In 1996, he was 38 years old. He was an accountant, a respected man, a solid career, rich, influential clients. Among them, a certain Lucien Varga. On paper, Varga ran an import-export business. In reality, he was one of the biggest money launderers on the East Coast. A man who cleaned up dirty money from criminal networks, traffickers, mafias, clans. My father, at first, knew nothing. He only saw the numbers. Strange transfers, fictitious companies, impossible transfers. It took him 6 months to understand. When he understood, he was already caught in the trap. "I could have closed my eyes," my father murmured, pretending I hadn't seen anything. I looked at him. "But you didn't." He shook his head slowly. "No, I went to see the federal police." He pointed to Helene. She was my contact. She was 29 years old. She had just been recruited. Helene added in a cold voice. "They assigned it to him because they thought the case would never come to fruition." My father smiled bitterly. They were mistaken. For 2 years, he carried a microphone. 2 years of playing a double game. 2 years of smiling at Varga knowing that he was recording every word. In 1999, my father testified. Varga was condemned. 30 years. He had been promised that it was all over, that the network was dismantled, that the threat was buried. My father had to enter witness protection, but he had been convinced to stay. "They told me he would die in prison," my father whispered. "They swore to me that it was all over." I felt a dull anger rise. "And you believed them?" He lowered his head. I wanted to believe them. He took a breath. "Your mother and I had just been married. We dreamed of a normal life. Children, vacation, of quiet meals. I didn't want our life to feel like a permanent escape. So he stayed. He changed certain habits. He remained cautious. Then the years passed, and fear fell asleep, until 3 months ago, Lucien Varga is out of prison. My father stood up and showed me a picture on the wall. A man in his 60s. Gray hair, icy gaze, a face marked by 25 years of confinement, but also by 25 years of hatred. Good behavior. My father spat. They had released him 5 years earlier. I felt my hands clench. "And he did it again?" Helene replied. "He never stopped. He was just waiting for the moment." My father pointed to another part of the wall. "Photos. Me, my mother, my wife, my children, Lena, Melis, Noah." I felt the blood leave my face. "He's going after them?" My father nodded slowly. "To all our family. He had 25 years to prepare his revenge." His voice broke. "He wants to destroy everything I love. Then he wants to make me die slowly." I breathed hard. "How do you know that?" Helene stepped forward. "We have informants in his entourage." As soon as he was released, he contacted his former allies. Within a week, he had a team. In a month, a plan. I couldn't blink anymore. A plan for what? She answered without emotion, like a sentence. "To massacre your whole family." My stomach knotted. I felt nauseous. I leaned against the chair. My father added, "That is why I faked my death. If he thinks I'm buried, maybe he'll lose interest." I gritted my teeth. "But Mama's message." His face hardened. "That's why I told you not to go back." I stared at him, terrified. "They have it." Helene replied, "We are not sure. But this message did not come from her. Too cold. Too direct. That's not his style. My father murmured, "If Varga took your mother, they're probably at my house right now, waiting for you to come in." I took out my phone and called Lena. She answered almost immediately. "Adrian, how did it go?" His voice was normal. Too normal. "Where are you?" I asked. "At your parents' house. Your mother invited us to dinner after the funeral. We're waiting for you to arrive." I thought my heart was going to explode. "Lena, listen to me. Your mother is not here." Silence. "If it passed just now." She said she had to run an errand and we could get in. My throat tightened. I looked at my father. His eyes were full of restrained rage. "Lena, take Melis and Noah. Get out of this house. Now." "What?" "But why?" "I can't explain. Trust me. Go to a public place. A restaurant. A shopping center. Anywhere with people." "Adrian, you scare me." "I know, but do it." Long silence. Then, Okay. We go out. I'll call you back when we're safe. "And Lena, don't go home either. Not until I tell you." I hooked. My father breathed slowly. They were at our house. Helene was already looking at her phone. "We have a watch on the LeClaire house. 2 men entered about an hour ago." I felt my blood run cold. "What are they waiting for?" She answered, "You, or your mother." I asked in a broken voice, "Where is my mother?" My father stared at the ground. That is what we're going to discover. The next few hours turned into an organized nightmare. Helene made calls. Agents arrived. 6 men and women, silent, armed, efficient. Unit 17 became a command center. Screens lit up. Maps appeared. Radio communications filled the air. And then the truth. They had found images. The cameras in the cemetery car park. It showed my mother walking to her car. It showed a black SUV parked next to it. 2 men get out. A quick move. A cloth on the face. My mother struggled, then collapsed. They loaded her into the vehicle like a bag. I stood petrified in front of the screen. I felt like I was locked in a movie, except that it was my life. Helene murmured, "They took it to lure you." I raised my head. "But how did they know?" My father replied, "Varga knows that my funeral was staged. He's not an idiot." Helene added, "Maybe as someone in the Undertaker, or that he has been watching us for longer than we think." She put her hands on the table. "No matter. What matters? It is because he has your mother, and he will use it as bait." I clenched my fists. "Then what do we do?" My father replied gently, almost resignedly, "We give him what he wants." I looked at him. "No, not you." He stared at me. "Yes." "Me." He rose. "Varga wants to destroy the man who sent him to prison. It's me. You don't know if he'll free her." My father put a hand on my shoulder. "I know this man. 2 years of listening to him speak. He is cruel, but he wants a show. He wants my suffering, not that of a 63-year-old woman." He breathed in. "He wants to kill me in front of us." I shook my head. "It's madness." He murmured, "No, it is a consequence." He looked me straight in the eye. "I have lived 25 years with guilt, not for having testified. That was right, but for letting this threat hang over you." He smiled sadly. "This is my chance to make amends." Helene stepped forward. "Maybe there's another solution." We turned to her. "He wants a confrontation." "Very well, we give it to him, but on our ground, not on his own." The plan was dangerous. The kind of plan you see in movies and that you refuse in reality because it can cost lives. But we had nothing else. Varga's lair had been located. A former port warehouse, abandoned for years. A rusty metal building at the water's edge. Perfect for a man who wanted to kill out of sight. The plan was simple. My father would go in first. Unarmed. He would ask for my mother. He would speak. It would save time. Meanwhile, the agents would position themselves around. Then at the right time, they would burst in. They would arrest Varga. They would free my mother. I asked, what do I do?" Helene answered without hesitation. "You stay here with the communications team." I got up. "No, that's my mom over there. My father is risking his life. I'm not going to sit around looking at a screen. Helene turned her head towards my father. My father sighed. He's stubborn. Then he added with a faint smile. He got that from his mother. I gritted my teeth. I can help. Helene replied, Adrian, you're a lawyer. You've never fired a gun. I replied, then give me a weapon and tell me what to do. My father laughed slightly, a short, almost nostalgic laugh. For the first time since I'd entered this unit, I regained a radiance of the man I had known. Proud, solid, indomitable. Very well, he said, but you're doing exactly what I'm saying. His gaze became hard. If it goes wrong, you run. You don't look back. You get Lena and the children back, and you disappear. I wanted to protest, but he cut me off. Promise me. I saw in his eyes the same expression he had when I was a child, when he prevented me from crossing a dangerous road. The same determination of a father ready to die to protect his son. I lowered my head. I promise you. The warehouse stood in the evening sky, like a monster, a dark, immense silhouette eaten away by salt and time. The sea wind howled between the metal plates. We arrived from the side, passing through an old drainage channel, leading to a secondary entrance. The agents moved like shadows, quiet, precise. My father walked ahead, unarmed, visible hands. I followed him, accompanied by two agents hidden in the darkness. Inside, everything was huge, an empty, cold space, lit by a few hanging industrial lamps, swaying gently like hangmen. And in the center, he was there, Lucien Varga. He looked exactly like his photo. Silver hair, face cut like a blade, eyes of ice, a patient look, the gaze of a predator who has been waiting for too long. Next to him, tied to a chair, my mother. His face was pale. Her lips trembled. His eyes were moist. But she was alive. Gaspard Leclerc, Varga said with a slow smile. His voice echoed through the empty building. I knew you weren't dead. Your funeral, beautiful staging. Very theatrical. My father stepped forward. Free her, Lucien. It's between you and me. Varga laughed. Between you and me? You stole 25 years from me. He walked slowly around my mother. 25 years in a cell, imagining how I would make you pay. Do you think I'm going to negotiate? My father replied, I am not negotiating. I offer you what you want. He opened his arms. Take me, and let my family go. Varga tilted his head. Your family? His gaze swept the warehouse. Then he smiles. Your son is here, isn't he? I felt my blood freeze. Varga inhaled the air like an animal. I feel his fear. My father replied quickly, he is not here. I came alone. Varga slowly raised a pistol. He put it against my mother's temple. Don't lie to me, Gaspard. I learned patience. I can wait all night. He pressed lightly. Or I can start shooting and see who rushes. I had no time to think. My voice exploded in the air. Stop. I stepped out of the shadows, hands raised. I am here. Don't hurt him. Varga looked at me, and his smile widened, as if he had just received a gift. Here it is. He approached. Adrian Leclerc. The sun. The air. He made a gesture. Bring him in. Two men appeared and grabbed me brutally. Their hands were like vices. They dragged me to the center of the warehouse and threw me on my knees next to my father. The cold metal of the ground burned my knees. Varga approached, slowly, savoring the moment. It's better that way, he said. The whole family reunited, almost. My father replied, Lena and the children are far away. You'll never find them. Varga shrugged. I found you. I found your wife. I will find the others. Then his face hardened. But first, he raised his weapon. I'll make you watch your son die. My father cried, Lucien, wait. But Varga shook his head. No, no more waiting. He pointed the cannon at my head. I closed my eyes. I thought of Lena, to Melis, to Noah. I thought of their laughter, to their hands in mine, to their voices. And a single thought crossed my mind. Sorry, the shot was fired. Deafening. But I did not fall. I opened my eyes again. Chaos had just arisen. Screams. Lights. Orders. Federal agents invaded the warehouse through all the entrances. Beams of lamps tore through the darkness. Varga turned around, surprised, furious. His men dispersed, some firing, others fleeing. Then another shot rang out. Varga yelled. He collapsed to the ground, holding her shoulder. His weapon slipped away from him. Helene Marchand stood in front of him. His pistol was still smoking. His gaze was cold as steel. Lucien Varga, she declared, you're under arrest. While the agents were overpowering Varga's men, my father rushed to my mother. He tore the bonds. He took her in his arms. Elise, Elise, are you okay? My mother was crying, trembling, but she nodded. I'm fine.